Welcome everyone to EA Global Summit 2021. This is Suja from EA Global Summit organizing team. It's our privilege to have Phil Chudley from Dunstan Thomas Consulting in our presence, presenting MDGs, the next steps. And I also thank everyone for your interest in joining this session. And for your kind information that we will be muting all the participants throughout the session. So please use the chat window to drop your question to the speaker. Your queries will be answered at the end of the session. We request everyone to visit the allotted Microsoft Teams channel to communicate with Phil and the other EA practitioners after the session. Phil and the other speakers accepted to stay in the channel to have a one-to-one discussion and answer all your queries. The link to the MS Teams channel is posted in the chat window for your quick reference. If you have any difficulties in connecting to Teams, please let us know through the chat window or write us at registrations@eaglobalsummit.com. Thanks once again for your interest and support to EA Global Summit 2021. Without any further ado, I'll request Phil to start his presentation. Over to you, Phil.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are tuning in from all over the world. My name is Phil Chudley, and I've been using Enterprise Architect for more years than I care to remember. Last year, I also did a presentation for the Global Summit, which was the basics of an MDG, getting it going, the fundamentals and so on. So this presentation is a continuation of that one. What we're going to do in this particular presentation is, first of all, start off with something fairly straightforward. And that is, you've got an MDG, and that MDG will be subject to change. So you're going to add some tag values. And then how do those new tag values get synchronized to your existing elements within your model? We'll also have a look at some shapescripts. Now, this is not a session on shapescript development, but rest assured I will go through a shapescript, what it looks like, some of the traps you may fall into. Then, using that shapescript, we're going to what I call display options when creating an element. This allows you to create an element from your MDG and set tag values automatically. Right. There's also a very brief session on a script. Again, this script allows you to generate the MDG without going through all the steps, which we will be going through a couple of times this afternoon, I can assure you. We're going to have a look at patterns. We're going to have a look at wizards and other artifacts in an MDG. That's going to be fairly brief because it's really straightforward to include other things other than profiles, diagrams, and so on. So let's get cracking straight into EA. So what I got here is the original MDG that I presented last year, and it's fairly straightforward. It's 3 stereotypes: problem, solution, and a cause. They have a common base where a common shapescript's defined. They also have a common attribute which they all inherit, and a few little relationships. Also in this MDG is the usual diagram, toolbox, and also some quick link specifications using stereotype relationships, and also some view specs. So what we're going to do first of all is just show that this is actually working. And when you have got an MDG, what I usually do, although it's not the only method I use, I import the MDG into a specific repository. And I'll be doing that as I update the MDG. So just to verify the MDG is there, we can go into resources, and there is the MDG for Global Summit 2021. and that verifies the MDG is available. And don't forget to put the MDG in your perspective, otherwise all your efforts will be wasted. Okay, all right, so let's get cracking. Add a diagram. Well, let's add a normal diagram here. I've got 3 viewpoint diagrams. For those of you who are using an older version of EA, this is the EA version 15.2, the latest build. There was a bug in the earlier versions 15.1 and 15.2 where this entry was repeated in a viewpoint. So if you have experienced that in your MDG, you're not doing anything wrong, right? It was a bug in a previous build of 15.2, I believe. So create a diagram, and yep, I always collapse my toolbox. Bring out a cause, bring out a problem, bring out a solution, use the quick link, and of course it verifies that you are creating the original actual proper links. So that just verifies everything is working and gives us something to work with at the moment. Okay, so step 1, just a very quick verification that we've got a valid starting platform. So now over to EA again, back to the meta model. And in this meta model, we're going to add into here, we're going to add an extra tag value. An extra tag value we're going to add into this problem here. And that tag value is going to be called criticality. All right. So the easiest way to do this, and many different ways, depending on the tag value, of course, is I'm going to use an enumeration. And there's a very good reason for that, because that is going to be connected into the Shapescript a little bit later on during this presentation. So take an enumeration, add it to the package, change its name, make sure that I actually get it typed correctly, otherwise everything else won't work. So there's criticality as an enumeration, which will become a tag value. Okie dokie. So now we can add some values into this. Now I'm going to be really simple here. I'm just going to use criticality A, criticality B, and criticality C. Okay. Oh, in case you didn't spot it, because you can't see my keyboard, going on to the next line in the features, attribute, operations table is Control N. I found that out the other day. Otherwise, I keep clicking below. But there is a keyboard shortcut. Control N will take you down to the next level. So, using the profile helper, we can add the tag value here quite simply by adding an enumeration tag value. With an enumeration tag value, just remember you can reuse the same enumeration as many times in the same stereotype or across stereotypes as you wish. And unlike some other predefined tag value, you can give this any name you like. Okay, but I'll call it criticality just for sake of easiness. Click OK. Enumerations, criticality. Okay. I'm not setting a default value. You can, of course, with the drop down enumeration, but I've chosen not to in this particular case. Okay. So click OK. So I've updated my MDG. I've changed it. So now, for the moment anyway, we'll go through the procedure of changing this, updating it, regenerating it. Making sure the profile package is selected. Publish package. Don't Don't publish it as a diagram, publish it as a package. I've already set this up earlier today, but to just check or double check that the path is correct, and if not, use this ellipsis button to go to a different path. Save. That's done. I haven't changed anything else, so now I can just go and generate. I'll generate using an existing MTS file. There's my existing MTS file there. And I'll update the version to version 1.1. And I'm not changing any of the contents. Just jumping ahead slightly, if you wanted to include things like RTF templates, you can check this box. Searches, you can do that. Scripts, you can do that. I'll come back in a little bit later, but that is how you add extra goodies into your MTS file. Right, everything is fine, everything's fine, and it's done. So we've now changed our MDG. We go over to test it. I usually test my MDGs in a separate repository other than where the MDG has been created. It's just a habit I have. So now what we need to do, is to import the MDG. Now you can, if you can import the MDG, or you can set a path to the MDG. Both ways will work, but this way is, I find, more flexible. You don't have to restart EA to reload the MDG, for example. So there's the MDG, and EA very nicely remembers all the file paths for you, but just keep an eye on it, just in case you're using different areas for different versions of an MDG. It's version 1.1, so it confirms I'm importing the right version. And away we go. Now, you'll find that nothing has happened at all. So if I look at this diagram here, this diagram is still the same. But if I look at the problem, you'll see it does not have that new tag value. Just because I've changed it and just because I've imported the MDG doesn't actually update the tag values. So a way to do it, you may have done this already, of course, yourselves, but is to select this particular stereotype in the toolbox and say synchronize and click OK, and it will identify every single stereotype of, in this example, a problem in the entire repository and list the changes it's made. Now, in this particular case, it's an easy change. It's an addition. So if I click OK or click Cancel, there is the criticality. Right, perfect. So what will happen if you deleted a tag value? So if I went back to my MDG and I removed this raised by and regenerated the MDG and resynchronized, well, it's actually quite surprising. What actually happens is, the raised by is deleted from this section. This is the MDG tag value, but it's moved into tags. So it's not actually lost. It's actually moved into tags, from which you can delete it manually if you wish, or perhaps write a script to do something like that. For changing the type, so if you had a string tag value and you changed it to memo, what I believe happens, I'm not going to try it out right now, is you get the memo updated here, but you may also get the original string version there. All right, so just be aware of those kind of things. But synchronizing a tag value, to add a new tag is simplicity in itself. Okay? Right. Good practice. Save the diagram appearance. So now let's have a look at something slightly different. Shapescripts. Now, shapescripts are a bit of a black art, and a lot of modelers sort of shy away from these things. And yes, they can be really tricky. So what essentially a shapescript defines the look, feel, and appearance, and in some cases, behavior of a stereotype. You can apply shapescripts to elements and connectors. What is really cool, and I wish this could be extended in some releases of EA, is that a selected number of properties can be tested within the tag value. Within the shapescript itself, including tag values. So you can test those values. You can't do everything. And the good news is, in my opinion, personal opinion only, I find the documentation of shapescripts in the user guide and in the library of PDF documents that Sparx Systems provide on their website to be pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. It's a lot better than some other software I could name. And I do believe that out there in the EA world, enterprise architect world, there is a number of sample scripts available which people make available free of charge. So I'll show you a script that I wrote, and then I'm going to show you a really cool bit of magic. Okay, a real cool bit of magic. So I like to use EA in these presentations rather than PowerPoint. So back to EA. In fact, actually, we're going to look at a script. So there is a shapescript. Now, this shapescript I've actually taken into a text editor, just so it's a lot easier for you to see rather than in EA. But basically, a shapescript has a function called main, where you can define the shape, and there's various functions like rectangle, ellipse, and all sorts of things that you can use. You'll notice that at the first part of this script, there's a number of assignments. Now, there are some variables in a script which affect the alignment of the text which you place inside the script, inside the shape, and those must be done first. And they are American spelling, so it's center ER, not center RE. And the first two are the text alignments. This one eliminates the drop shadow around the element, and this guy is when you have a shapescript made of more than one shape. So if you imagine a UML class which has a border at the top, a border for attributes, and a section for operations, that is constructed with 3 shapes, one for each area. And this is very similar. So we'll have a look at the moment, and border is a way to actually combine these particular shapes. This section here, a simple if statement, is checking a tag. So it's saying, does the element in question have a tag called criticality? Is that value A or B or C? If so, set the pen color accordingly. So the pen color is stating the obvious, I suppose, what draws the border of the actual shape. Def size gives you an initial size of your element. And then this one is the rectangle notation. Now you'll observe when you use use cases and Archimate and other items that you can use a rectangle notation on and off as a toggle to change the appearance of that particular element. So it has property rectangle notation, and then it's 0 means it is not rectangle, and 1 means it is. So if it's not rectangle, it's just a simple rectangle with a simple subshape added to the bottom. Otherwise, it's a rectangle at the top, or a rectangle with 2 subshapes. So it's a single subshape, 2 subshapes. The subshapes are defined in sections within the shape main, giving a unique name, type, top. And these are just essentially statements to say what that particular subshape looks like. Of interest is this guy, preferred height. Preferred height equals 30 means that when you resize this particular shape, because it's made up of multiple shapes, that shape will not resize. It stays in proportion. Name top, name center, this just basically allows you to print various bits. Notice there are some macros. So these will substitute the stereotype of the element, the name of the element, and there are 1 or 2 other bits and pieces in the documentation for values you can output. Now we get into the tricky bits. When you've used Enterprise Architect, you've often seen little fancy gizmos in the top left corner, top right corner, bottom corner, the link symbol for composite elements, and so on. The little red A, for example. In a Shapescript, they're known as decorations. And you simply declare a decoration with the word decoration, set its orientation to the compass points, north, northeast, and so on, southeast, southwest, and so on, depending where you want your particular decoration. And you can have as many decorations as the compass points allow, which I would believe is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 as a maximum you can have. Then, if it's a composite element, I draw the little link symbol. If it has a link document, I draw the little red A. Right? So that is a reasonably good shape script. There are far more complicated ones than this, but it's a good starter for this particular discussion. So I'm going to copy all those to the clipboard, like that. Copy all those to the clipboard. Go over to Enterprise Architect and go back to our meta model. Okay. And in the profile, I'm going to add the Shapescript to problem. And the easiest way to do that, you edit with the profile helper, Shapescript, edit, and simply paste the Shapescript in there. Notice that when you use the Shapescript within the profile helper, it does actually do all of the color coding to sort of color syntax checking, so to speak. And refresh. Now, the refresh is meant to give you a preview. It's a preview-ish. It's not always totally what you see is what you get. But the important thing about refreshing is you don't get any syntax errors in this. All right, so click OK. We're all fine. So now we've changed our MDG. So very quickly, I'll just go through and publish the profile. And I'll regenerate the MDG. And this bit always amuses me. That was at the top of the list last time I generated. Now it's at the bottom of the list. Go back to 2. You don't have to update the version number every time, of course. And you're going to see this several times. Go over to the tester. Don't forget to re-import the technology, of course. And with any luck, our problem has got this. And if we change the criticality, A, B, and C. Yay. So our shapescript now working. It's reacting to the tag value to change that particular border according to the criticality of that particular element. So that brings us to the next update into the MDG. Displaying options when creating an element. Now, for those of you who have used Archimate junctions, you've used BPMN, you may find that when you drag certain elements onto your diagram, a little pop-up menu comes up saying, oh, what task type would you like? Would you like an OR junction or an AND junction? And you may be wondering, how does that menu get displayed? Well, it's displayed when you do something fancy within the MDG. I haven't forgotten the magic of the shapescript. I'll come back to that. So when if you would like to know how to do this little mystery pop-up menu, this is what you do. And it's far easier to show it in EA than it is just to chat about it. So back to EA, back to our good old profile. Now, the trick is we need to add something into the meta class. Now, you'll notice that the hide UML links is a technique for quick link menus. Well, this is pretty much the same thing. So if I go into attributes, and I add an attribute in here, and you have to be exact with the spelling, exact with the case and everything. And the attribute is called underscore lowercase subtype capital property, like that. So we're not spelt like that because I've got an extra R in it. It's underscore subtype property. It's of type string, like that, and it's set to a specific value. Now this value is really critical. It begins with your MDG code, which is this thing here. Whenever you created your MDG via the wizard, you entered a code. All right, so that is that one. It's followed by the stereotype in which the attribute that or tag value that is going to affect this menu, it must be an enumerative tag value, is contained, followed by the name of the tag value. So we added a tag value called criticality into the problem, which was part of our MDG. I'm just observing, I do have a typo and I don't want it not to work, so just double check criticality. Yes. So MDG : stereotype : enumeration tag value name. There we are. Not the name of the enumeration, the name of the tag value. They happen to be the same in this particular case. And there we are. And now I hit an issue when I was trying this. It doesn't appear to work if this is a generalization from an element which is extending the meta class. You have to do this. That is an extension. And that is not a generalization. So basically, I need to just do a little bit of manipulation like that. I won't worry about tidying the arrows up. Okay, just a quick check to make sure everything is absolutely perfect, and believe that is okay. So let's give it a whirl. Usual thing, publish, save, like that, generate, like this. Perfect. Now, back to tester, re-import. Here we go, re-import. And there is the pop-up. How cool is that? I'll do that again because it sort of appeared. There's the little pop-up menu of A, B, and C. So if I say, I want B or A, it automatically sets the tag value and displays the right shapescript, right appearance. So that little menu is actually a really cool little trick. But make sure you've got all the spellings correct inside the attributes which you have to create. Now, as promised, I said I would show you a really cool trick within a Shapescript. And I believe I did this last year. So for those of you who weren't actually attended my presentation last year, I share this with you, all right? And it's a really cool trick. If I want to use a complicated Shapescript, I'm not sure quite how it works. Let's say, for example, I'm looking at Archimate, and I like some of those Shapescripts in there, but I want to modify it slightly. And I don't want to work out all the complication of how it's done. So is there a way I can do this? Well, actually, yes. What you can do is this. First of all, I'll just create a placeholder stereotype, all right? Then you go over to Program Files x86, Sparx Systems, EA, MDG Technologies, and you locate the technology that you're interested in. And you open this with a browser. It has to be a browser. Don't open it with a notepad or Word or anything like that. Open it with a browser. And I use Internet Explorer. All right. So there is the raw XML. So now we can simply find, and I'm going to use gold, not because of any particular reason, but as good as any. Well, I would if I could get out gold. And you'll notice that in the section for the stereotype, it's got a massive, great, horrible looking section called image, which is bin base 64. And if I select all of that like that, now I know out there are some fancy little applications and scripts and PowerShells and all those kind of things which can disassemble all this bin base 64. But you don't have to do that. Not for a Shapescript. So make sure all of that is selected, including the tabs, the markers, image and /image. And copy that. Whoops, not on Control A. I just did the wrong bit on my keyboard. Copy that to the clipboard, Control C or right click copy. All right. Then go into your meta model. And here you add an attribute. So in my stereotype called class, I add an attribute called underscore image. Underscore image. And in its initial value, all I do is paste the entire thing I copied from the web browser. All right. So if I edit with profile helper, look at the shapescript, bingo. Oh, hey, how cool is that? It just, EA disassembles it. So why use an application? Why use a PowerShell? Why use any old bit of code to do it when EA can do all the hard work for you? So now you can go down in here and see exactly how that shapescript was put together. And here is where you can find out how to do the composite little link symbol, for example. And you can put that into your own shapescripts. I do use that trick quite a lot. Okay, so that is a really cool thing. It's magical, really is. I don't need this class. It was just there to show you that piece of magic. So I'll just go click, yes, I'll delete that. Okay. And oh, by the way, trust me, if that shapescript renders correctly in the helper, it will display correctly later on. Now, we've got something else very quickly to show you. And that is the script. Yeah, script. The script I would like to show you, and I won't go through this in any sort of detail, is to generate the MDG automatically. And here it is. Now, this is a script I wrote last year, actually. This one goes through and picks up an MTS file and then uses the MTS file, regenerates the profile as a package profile. Each diagram and each toolbox, it regenerates those files for you and then regenerates the MDG. It is quick. It will work if and only if you don't need to make changes to the MTS file. So if you want to update the version or you want to add something new to the MTS file, then you'll have to generate it manually. Then you can use the script. So if you just make a change to the profile or the toolbox or whatever, then you can simply use this script to regenerate it. And I'll run the script a little bit later. And for your information, before this session started, I put that script onto the MS Forum chat. So if you want to get it as a resource file, then please do so. So, moving on. We've done that bit. Right, patterns. What we're going to do now is have a look at a pattern, right? And we're going to add a pattern into the MDG and go through the process of how you create a pattern into an MDG, and most importantly, how you use the pattern afterwards. Okay, so back to our profile. Now, the pattern itself is just a diagram, and in order to create the pattern, it doesn't have to be in the MDG, but I find it a lot easier to put it into the MDG. So what we do is this. We create a little package, patterns. And if we're going to create a pattern using our MDG, it makes perfect sense that the MDG must be imported into the repository which is managing the MDG. That makes sense, right? So now what we can do is we can create a quick diagram in here. I'll just use the example diagram like that. And I'm going to create a very simple pattern using a problem like that, a cause like that, and two sub-problems, one here and one here. I'm not worrying about, as you saw, I didn't worry about setting the criticality. Connecting those up with a few links. Like that. And like that. So that is my pattern here. Okay. Quite straightforward. That's the easy bit. Now, how do we actually use that? Okay. Well, the first thing to do is to save this. And you save it not as a profile, but publish diagram as a pattern. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is the pattern name is going to be called, just get my crib sheet out, problem cause. Like that. And the file name, you need to send it into here. And you can see I've already got a file name because I went through all this before. There's my file name. Just make sure it's the right path. It is, like that. And what I can do is, by default, it will create a new instance of these elements on a new diagram. I can also use merges as well if I want to use merge. So that would merge with existing elements. So if I click merge like this and I resaved it, it would update that. So either way, create or merge, or either or both, I guess. And that will now create your pattern. Okay, cool. Now I'm also going to change the name of this diagram to match the pattern name. I don't think it's just to keep things neat. Okay, now comes the next part, to make the pattern available. To make the pattern available, you have to add a toolbox page. So we add a toolbox page, and I'm going to call this toolbox page patterns. Patterns. Oops. Patterns. I'm going to have it collapsed, and you add a new item. Add a new item, and then you can give it a name. Like that. And the entry in the stereotype has to be, as usual, exact. And what it is this. It is PRC MDG : So it's your MDG name followed by the pattern name, brackets UML pattern, no space, like that. Just double check. Yeah, click OK. So now, as I've updated the toolbox, I save that as a diagram, which is just check that, that's fine. Okay. I didn't change the profile, but I will regenerate the profile as well. And regenerate the MDG. Now, the reason I have to use the The manual method is because I need to add something to the MTS file, so I can't exactly use my script. And I want to add patterns. So here's the patterns selection. So as usual, just simply navigate into the area where I want this to be taken from. And that should have created my pattern. So again, back to my testing, MDG, okay. There's the pattern. There's the new toolbox. I'll create a new diagram. And to do the pattern, drag out and basically accept all that. Yes, patterns. There we are. So that's patterns in the toolbox and patterns inside your MDG. Now, time is pressing on, and I notice I've only got about 15 minutes left. So hopefully I'm not talking too fast, but this is being recorded and will be published as the video. So away with last topic we're going to do. And I prepared this in advance, but I will go through all the nuances for you. And that is to wizards. Now, a wizard is where you've seen a project structure created in advance, by a wizard, including diagrams, elements, and whatever you like. We see these many times in many MDGs supplied by Sparx systems. You've also noticed a recent addition to the wizard is the little text area, which explains all about the wizard. So this demonstration is going to show you how to do that. Well, basically, you need to create the wizard structure either within the MDG or in a separate repository. Export that to XMI, create an RTF document as a linked document for a document artifact. Then copy those files into app data roaming Sparx systems EA model patterns. And then you need to manually add something to the MTS file. So this is what this slide is showing. And the model name is the name of the wizard, and that is the name of the file. Okay. Now, this is not a new idea. This has always been there, but you should be able to put an absolute path in here. But I found I couldn't get that to work. And it does work if you don't put an absolute path in and you use app data roaming Sparx systems EA model patterns. So without further ado, back to EA. Now, I've already got my wizard patterns here, okay? And I'm going to copy those to the clipboard. Okay, go back to my MDG and paste them. Right, so here, this is the structure, cause, problem, solution, all of that. That is the structure I want to use in my wizard. So when someone uses the wizard, they get all of that created. All right, and I'm just going to simply synchronize the stereotypes. Okay, the tricky bit is the text. So we use a document artifact with a linked document. And then you can just fill in this linked document in the usual way that you have linked documents. Here we are. So that's just a simple text and a bit of diagram screening here. Right. So that is my explanatory text. Then you need to export this. And the first thing you need to export is the cause problem solution to XML or XMI, whichever you prefer. So you just simply say export XML, and I will simply go into this, oops, like that, and I will give it a name of complete viewpoint. Complete viewpoint. Just double checking the spelling. And export. Right. With the document, you save as export and export it as an RTF. An RTF. So if I export it as an RTF file, again, exactly the same name as the XML file, but so obviously not with the XML extension, and save. Right. So that's what we do. That's all the prep work done. Now we transfer them, and I've done this already, to app data, roaming, Sparx systems, EA, model patterns. Now there's no space in model patterns. And there you'll see complete viewpoint and complete viewpoint. Those are the two files. So to save a bit of time today, I'm not going to overwrite those. I've shown how to export them. I've shown how to create the RTF file. And those files must be in this app data folder. All right? Okay. Now we need to go back to our text editor and pick up this here. And what we need to do is to add a section, but just before the end of our MTS file. And that is this here, which I've already got on a previous version. It's model templates, model name, complete viewpoint, description is nothing, location is the file name of the XML file, which is in your app data folder. Default icon filter, I think you can put any values in there, but I know these actually work. Control C to copy that into the MTS file, paste it, and save. So I've made a manual update to the MTS file. You can't do this within any wizards or any helpers or anything. It's a manual hack. Okay, it's a manual hack. But I have saved that. That's all done. So now, as I've saved it and I didn't make any changes to my profile, my diagram, or my toolbox, I can now use the script. Go. And that was a lot quicker than going through all the dialogues. So it's generated using the script. And now we have a big cross of our fingers, and we go into the tester, and we say we import. We import the latest version of the MDG, and click the wizard, and Go on. It's not responding at the moment. EA has decided not to respond on something. Well, my EA has decided not to respond. It would happen right at the very end, wouldn't it? I'll try closing EA and restarting it. That seems to work, doesn't it? Yes. Good. So now when I click the wizard on complete viewpoint, you can see that the explanatory text that I wrote in the RTF document is there. And what will happen now is if I create the pattern, it just simply imports all that lot. And there is my viewpoint with my wizard. So, just a quick reminder. So I've done the wizards. We've done the patterns. We've done the pop-up menu. Showed a quick trick on shapescripts, how a shapescript can react to a tag value, how to synchronize tag values. And what I said right at the very beginning is I would just, and I've got about a couple of minutes left, that's perfect. What I would do is I would just briefly go through adding some extra items into an MDG, specifically the MTS file. Well, I'll talk about this. So if I generate this and open MTS file like that. Now, searches, yeah, perfect. No problem about searches. And that will allow you to put your model searches in, and it gives you a little category of your MDG. Perfection. Templates. Now, what happens here is when you've got a series of documentation templates, the wizard, this is the generation wizard, will give you a list of all those templates, and you can include all of them, some of them, a set of them. And just like you can pick off the file names for your patterns and diagram types. Scripts, gotcha. Scripts do allow you, yeah, sure. The scripts will go into the MDG. Yeah, they'll be part of your repository when you import the MDG. But, and there's always a but. I don't want to end on a negative, but when you write scripts, you often write them as a browser script or a diagram script, and they're special script groups. When you put scripts into an MDG and you import the MDG into your repository, those groupings are lost. Now, that is my experience. The guys from Sparx Systems will say maybe they fixed it now, hopefully. But last time I tried that, which was not very long ago, I found that all these script groupings were lost. So I don't tend to put scripts into an MDG. I just export them as a resource and import them as a resource. But wizards, yes. Having cracked the bit about the wizard and the text, yeah, I use that. Patterns, yeah, I use patterns. And pretty much everything we've shown this afternoon, I use day in, day out with the MDGs that I do for myself, and also as a consultancy basis for other EA like-minded users. So bang on time. That is it for now. And I invite you to sort of join me over in the MS Teams, where I'll stay and answer any questions for you.
Thanks a lot, Phil. I thank Phil on behalf of everyone for making this session a wonderful one. Due to time latency, now another meeting is joining. Sorry. So we request Phil to be available in MS Teams to have a detailed discussion and answer more questions. The link to the MS Team channel is posted in the chat window for your quick reference. If anyone is having any difficulties in connecting to Teams, please reach us at registrations@aaglobalsummit.com. Thanks once again, everyone, and looking forward to host you all in another wonderful session shortly. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Sorry, I did only ended just on time.
No problem at all. No problem at all.
Okay.
We'll see you at Teams, Phil.
Yes, indeed. All the best now. Bye-bye, everyone.
Cheers.